Welcome back to Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we're going to discuss potential sleeper draft targets. Who could the Seahawks be looking to add when it comes to day 3 and some of these later rounds in the draft that would be a good fit for the Seattle Seahawks in this April's draft? We'll tell you about some of the names that come to mind. I got a few that I'll tell you about here in just a few moments from right now. Before we do, with the draft, I'm very curious. When you look back at Seattle Seahawks history and what they've done in the draft, who is the Seahawks' greatest draft pick of all time? Who comes to mind as the greatest draft pick that we've seen the Seahawks ever select? Give me one name in the comments section. And everyone can have a different criteria. I don't think that there are any wrong answers here. Tell me your opinion. Who is the greatest Seattle draft pick of all time and why you believe they are the greatest Seahawks draft pick of all time in the comments section below. Let's start with Julius Brents from Kansas State. Now, I'll be honest, I have a couple of guys on here that are from the Kansas State Wildcats, and that's not just to please my boss, Brett Scott, with that, especially since I went to the University of Kansas. But I got to tell you, the Cats have some talented players that are going to be some sleepers in this draft. Starting with Julius Brents here, first-team All-Big 12 performer. Started his career with the Iowa Hawkeyes and then transferred to K-State and was a really fine football player in his years with the Cats. And the comparison that he's gotten has been similar to Tremaine Johnson is the player that he brings to the table. And remember, the Seahawks did a really good job last year when it came to the late rounds of finding corners with Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen. So they've scouted these guys in the past. Here is what Lance Zierlein had to say about Julius Brents. Brents is a classic zone cover corner with an outstanding blend of size, length, and leaping ability. He has the disruptive traits to reroute the release and the dog in him to handle his business and run support. He could play some press man on a vertical plane. So how about that? Good scouting report there on Julius Brents, a guy that is under the radar and could be a good fit for this Seattle team, somebody that they look at there in the later rounds and fulfill a need at the corner position. And, you know, with what the Seahawks did to bring in Julian Love, who could be playing nickelback, could be starting at safety, kind of depends on where Quandre Diggs' injury recovery is at. You don't have to use a high pick on corner now, but you still need some help at corner. And so a guy like that could make sense for Seattle there potentially. Name a player the Seahawks should draft. This is our pin comment today. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. And tell me one player the Seahawks should draft here in this upcoming draft. All right. So Julius Brents was our first name. Next up, let's go to the offensive side of the ball. That's where we find Michael Wilson from Stanford with the selection at the wide receiver position. The Seahawks already loaded at receiver with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett as your 1A and 1B, but trying to find that number 3 receiver and a guy that also could be a potential replacement for Tyler Lockett down the road is what the Seahawks are looking for. Michael Wilson could be a good fit for Seattle later in the draft. He was a 5-year starter at Stanford. That's something that we don't say very often, but now we do with the COVID year that players got. He started 6 games at Stanford in 2022 before he had a season-ending injury, and so that was unfortunate for him, but nonetheless, he's expected to be fine and ready to go for this upcoming season. Got some comparisons to Mac Hollins is who he has been dubbed up to be similar to. And according to Lance Zierlein, this is what he had to say. Energetic wideout who plays the game with excellent urgency and effort. That first sentence, I would take that on any player. I would love to hear exactly what I just heard with that first sentence there on Michael Wilson. Here's more. Wilson plays to his top speed at all times, but he needs to become a more efficient route runner to beat NFL coverage. Got a couple more names we'll get to here in just a second. Before we do, are you tired of struggling with bad habits? Cold turkey might be great for sandwiches, but there's a better way to break free from those pesky habits, and it doesn't involve weird mind voodoo or other bizarre tactics. Introducing our sponsor, Fume, an innovative, award-nominated device that helps you kick back bad habits to the curb by focusing on the good parts. Fume is all about embracing the natural. It's a non-electronic, and instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. Best of all, it's free of harmful chemicals and packed with delicious, all-natural flavors. The adjustable airflow dial and movable parts and magnets make it perfect for fidgeting, which can help alleviate stress and anxiety while you break your bad habit. I wasn't sure what to expect at first, but I was pleasantly surprised by the taste, feel, and look of Fume. Breaking a habit can be tough, but with Fume, it's easy, enjoyable, and even fun. With over 100,000 customers and countless success stories, there's no reason you can't be next. Start your journey towards a healthier lifestyle with the Journey Pack from Fume. Visit tryfume.com/chatsports. Use code chatsports for 10% off when you purchase the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports. And don't forget, use code chatsports for 10% off your order. Link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Tell them that Tyler Jones at Chat Sports sent you. You'll be glad you did. All right, 2 down, 2 to go. We're about halfway through. Let's show you the other K-Stater that we have on the list. And this is one of my favorite players in the draft, Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State, the all Big 12 running back. And I got to tell you, he is something special. And Deuce Vaughn, this is a guy that, as a Big 12 football fan, especially that went to Kansas, I'm so glad that he is moving on to the NFL, not going to be in the conference anymore, because he was a menace. He was a problem for opposing defenses to deal with. The two-time first-team All-American selection, back-to-back seasons with 1,000 rushing yards and 42 receptions. So, as the Seahawks already have in every down back in Kenneth Walker, they're looking for a complementary back, right? To be that number 2 guy that can be a pass catcher, that can be a third down back of some sorts. Deuce Vaughn is the perfect fit for that. In the comparison he's drawing is one of my favorite sneaky good players that we saw in the league, Jacquizz Rodgers. I like everything about Deuce Vaughn. Here's more from Lance Erline. He sees the field clearly, is fearless between the tackles, possesses quality contact balance, and finds his way into the end zone as a runner and receiver. Vaughn has an uphill climb ahead of him, but his history of consistent high-end production makes the climb to success seem achievable. That's incredible. That seems like it. I believe in Deuce Vaughn. I know that he doesn't have the size, but he has everything else. He's a great pass catcher. He's got great speed. He's got the big play ability. Deuce Vaughn would be awesome in a Seahawks uniform. He's been drawing some comparisons, too, to another K-State legend that had a really good career, Darren Sproles. And think about this. Sproles, same thing, was undersized, right? And with Darren Sproles, every team in the league could have used a Darren Sproles. I think that's what you're looking at with Deuce Vaughn. You're not asking him to be your every down back, but every team in the league can find a way to use him. Yes, I would love to see him there. What do you think? Should the Seahawks draft Deuce Vaughn in the later rounds? Y for yes, in for no. Tell me in the comments section what you think about drafting Deuce Vaughn or not. Folks, you got to subscribe to the channel. Look, this is a great time here on Seahawks Today. Our live shows on Wednesdays, they get crazy sometimes. We're counting down to the draft. We're talking trades, free agency, everything you need to know about your Seattle Seahawks. We got you covered. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/Seahawks TV. We are closing in on 37,000 subscribers, 37 for Sean Alexander. Let's do our part to get there. Subscribe now today, and you'll be glad you did. All right, last name on the list, and that is Chamarri Corner, who's not actually a corner. He's a safety from Virginia Tech, the Virginia Tech Hokies. And I want to tell you more about him. I feel like he's probably the guy that most people don't know about, probably know the least about of the players listed here. A second-team All-ACC performer, spent 5 years at Virginia Tech, 4 as a starter, gets comparisons to Percy Butler. And with what the Seahawks did of the Julian Love signing, safety was a priority entering this offseason. They took care of that with Julian Love, so you don't have to draft high at the safety spot, but it's still a need. And that's where Connor here can come in and potentially fill that gap for Seattle of being that D3 selection potentially. And the scouting report on him, here's more from Lance Erline, what he had to say. The speed and pattern matching aren't great, but the ball skills are above average. Connor has late day 3 value as a potential backup. That's what you're looking for is a backup. Not necessarily a guy that's going to be starting right away, but be a rotational piece. Connor could come in right away and be a good fit for Seattle. So those are some names to keep in mind. Of the 4 names I gave you there, who is your top Seattle draft sleeper from the list? What do you think of those 4 names? For me, it's Deuce. He's my personal favorite. But what say you? Let me know what your favorite draft player was that comes to mind from who we talked about there. Give me a name in the comment section below. As always, you can interact with me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live, talking about your Seattle Seahawks as we cover this team like no one else does. Follow me there. I'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.